Story 1. The Counter and the Coal. Not even magical reindeer who fly are immortal, and Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen were tales of Christmas mornings that had long since come to pass. Rudolph himself lived 17 years, a respectable lifespan for the average captive reindeer, by no means a miracle. Unless such a reindeer was among the lucky few to be housed in the stalls of a certain southern toy shop. These reindeer tended to be shorter lived than most. Every Christmas, you see, a few of Santa's reindeer would fall short of the requirements needed to fly around the globe. This was not a great cumbrance to the mission itself. Santa's mind was as sharp as his belly was round, and he knew that the reindeer who could not last the journey would be dead or close to it once they reached Russia's nose, which looks like that of an elephant seal. Then it would be off to Alaska. Santa's sleigh, short 2 or 3 reindeer, would fly across the Bering Sea as slowly as the petrels. Men on industrial fishing boats would look up, point, and to exclaim, then they jock. That Christmas would need an extension. It never did. In the interior of Alaska, there lived a man of tremendous money and very little wealth, and the people who knew him had named him the Counter. The Counter lived in a decrepit shack where he slouched in his desk in front of the hearth, counting the money he'd made off his reindeer the previous years, 43 years to be exact. When the fire burned low so as to make this process difficult, he would grab a piece of wood, toss it into the hearth, and continue his endless counting until he'd come to believe that the money itself was the source of his warmth. But until he could afford to buy such a truth, someone still had to chop the firewood. This someone was a young boy, a child of the Ribes, who, some years ago, had been bought with the Counter's money, or rather the threats that tended to accompany it, as sure as the destruction that accompanies a flame. The Counter told him nothing about his heritage, other than the story of how his people burned the money that had sold his very life. They tossed the wadded-up bills, exactly $25, into the flames that cooked their meat. The boy got the sense that his master thought them fools for this. He himself did not. He never received $1 from his master, and it never appeared on his Christmas list. He was nearly afraid of the paper. It held a cruel sort of spirit that could hold a man captive, pretending to be warmth in the grasp of bluish fingers. Instead, he gave worship to the warmth from the firewood wick. Kept himself and his reindeer alive through the bitterest cold of winter. Only one thing was more precious to him than wood, and that was coal. His master spoke of it often. He screamed of it. Actually, the boy had a way of sneaking wood from his master, which he'd burn in the pit that he fashioned out of bricks in the reindeer barn. This barn was poorly constructed and drafty, and despite their hardy pelts, the reindeer relied on the fires to keep them alive through the wintry nights. The boy lended his own heat as well, snuggled up amongst their bodies in the hay. He loved his reindeer dearly enough to endure the abuse from his master, who chased him around with a fire poke whenever he caught him stealing wood. Coal for Christmas, the old man would scream. Coal for Christmas, the boy could only hope. This year's winter was longer and colder than any he'd lived through before, and their firewood supply was dwindling already each day. He tried to chop more wood, but his fingers grew numb, and the trees were too frozen to hack with his axe's dull blade. He dreamed about coal from Christmases past. Coal did not need to be chopped, split, or hauled. It burned longer and hotter than wood. Coal was the greatest gift a boy could ever hope for. He couldn't wait for Santa to arrive that night. It was Christmas Eve, and they were, down to the last piece of wood, which his master guarded greedily. He would need it to count his money that night. Tonight would be the coldest night yet, the coldest Christmas in 117 years and 23 days, to be exact, and the counter knew with certainty that Santa would need at least 3 replacements for his reindeer, maybe 4. He would make thousands of dollars, enough to count for years to come. He needed that last piece of firewood, but the boy and his reindeer needed it more. "Please, master," begged the young bee, "or without fire tonight the reindeer will die." "Have they enough fire to last until Santa?" asked the counter, who was counting his money. Already his fire burned so low that he counted by candlelight, and this would not do. He needed that last piece of firewood. "They have, but then this is no concern to me. And do not even think of stealing my wood, for if you do, then I shall set the whole barn ablaze, and they shall have fire to last till the end of their lives." The counter continued his counting. The boy returned to the barn, where his beloved reindeer were crowded by fire, which was dying by the second, with a sad heart. The boy pondered what to do. Then he made up his mind. Santa Claus arrived with his sleigh for reindeer short, and to close to death T was better than the counter could had ever hoped to count. While the rosy-cheeked man did business with the counter, he unbridled his reindeer and allowed them to rest in the barn near the fire. Hitch burned as low as embers at this point. With his great red sack slung over his shoulder, Santa walked to the decrepit shack where the counter stood on the porch. Slouched beneath the weight of the cold, he rubbed his hands together, which were eager for the warmth of his money. It would be found in the great red sack, which magically revealed what a person was owed. "Come in, cried the counter. "You are in need of 4 reindeer, maybe 6. Let me count up the money that is owed." "Why," said Santa, who walked inside to see the hearth full of ash, "I am not sure I owe you anything. What sort of man gives fire to his beasts, but neglects an honored guest? Now, you old rag, why must you frighten me so carelessly? Do you not see the wood in front of the hearth? If you toss it in the ashes, there shall be enough fire for the both of us to count by. By the red nose of Rudolph, I see not a splinter." "Impossible," cried the counter, but he stood right where Santa was standing, and he counted not a splinter, only 15 piles of money where a splinter should have been. There were 20,000 for $100 $83, 0 pieces of firewood, and exactly 1 culprit, and it ate up the counter in a terrible rage, so that his face grew hotter than any fire that had ever burned. "Ed in the hearth, that boy stole my wood," he cried. "That boy stole my wood." "Then my present for him shall be coal," said Santa. But this punishment was not enough for the counter, who through all of his counting had never really learned what enough truly was. So he grabbed his hot red fire poke, and he ran out to the barn, and he stabbed it into the piles of hay where he knew he boy liked to sleep. He stabbed the hay so many times that he lost count of just how many, but it occurred to him for the first time in his life and it must have been enough, for the barn was all up in flames from the hay that his poke had set fire to, and now he was trapped inside. Then Santa ran into the flaming barn, crying out for his reindeer, and now he was trapped as well. By the time the boy walked out of the woods with his axe in one hand and a bundle of sticks in the other, the barn was reduced to nothing but ashes. How long did it take? Nobody knows. There was no one to count, but there were 25 reindeer for the boy to look after, including Santa's reindeer, who followed him loyally despite being closed to death. They loved their boy dearly, and he loved them back, enough to count each one as they walked into the shack and out of the cold. The boy threw the piles of money into the hearth, which made as good tinder as any. It happened his people were not fools after all, and under one pile he found the last piece of firewood, which he tossed into the fire as well. It was enough to keep him and his reindeer warm through the coldest night in over a century. Then, in the morning, the boy peeked into the great red sack that Santa had left on the desk, and it showed him what he was owed. It was coal, a never-ending supply of coal. He didn't even try to count it. Story 2. All I want for Christmas is fair labor practices. I told you, Billy, I'm out of the game. Have been for a long time. Gustmus Tinsel Trolley took a long, slow sip of his hot cocoa as Billy, the jingle bell ringer, stood in the living room of his cozy log cabin deep in the Canadian Rockies. He knew the second the broad shoal daredevil had knocked on his door that, at the least, trouble was afoot. At the most, all of Christmas could be on the line. The big guy needs you. Gus, the kids need you. You were the best gift wrapper the North had since tissue paper was invented. Besides, Claus said that he's heard the message, and negotiations can be continued after the holiday season. The strikers are being unreasonable. Billy had a habit of speaking with his hands. He was the king of holding a conversation, or having a second, smaller conversation going on with his emphatic arm waving or expressive finger wagging. Ng. At the moment, his hands were shoved in his pockets, noticeably mute. Gus wondered if it had been a mistake on Santa's part to send him, or perhaps if he was the best Santa. Left, I ain't no scab, Billy. If the strike isn't over, then the big man isn't done listening. He held his mug gingerly in his gnarled hands, letting the warmth seep into him, strengthen high. So what? Millions of kids are going to see their naked presents under the tree as soon as they walk up on Christmas morning. No surprises, no sense of tradition, no order. It'll be chaos. G.U.S. Chaos. There was a quaver in his voice that could have been mistaken for passion, but Gus more accurately registered it as fear. When his face remained blank, Billy pressed on. Have you ever seen a Christmas morning for a family of 7 before? H.M. Well, I have, without the individual wrapping paper for each kid or a cheery little namatag with holly on it. Things get tossed around, Gus, even thrown. His voice turned dark. You ever see a toe get broken before a little kid gets to play with it even once? He shook his head, looking nauseous at the thought of it. Gus grit his teeth. Not even the exiles on the peninsula of poorly thought through toys interacted with those lost souls, the broken toys whose hopes had been forever dashed by an overworked delivery man or an overeager family. Why, dog, I'm just a retired rapper. I'm past my prime. These old fingers won't be much use to Nicky. He sat his mug down and splayed his fingers for Billy to see. He scoffed, you won the Tannenbaum Tinker Award 5 years in a row. You've won 21 holly jolly giftsmas medals of honor. 22. Actually, Gus murmured, his gaze scanned the garland that lined his living room, and his eyes lingered on the silver medals that he'd so carefully placed upon it. They seemed to glint and twinkle in the roaring fire's light. He sighed heavily, feeling the weight of all those awards and all those years bearing down on him. You know, we used to call you the Nutcracker. Billy took a few steps toward the fire, turning his back on Gus. That was a different time. No kidding, it was Billy's turn to sigh. Well, for what it's worth, I hope you'll rethink your answer, Tinsel Trolley. Or else the next time I show up at your door, it might be under less festive circumstances. He rested his elbow on the mantel, staring into the fire. For what it's worth, I hope the next time we meet is under different circumstances, too. Oh, there was no malice in his voice. A lengthy beat of silence passed between them. Then, without another word, Billy walked out. The door slammed shut, shooting a frigid winter breeze through the living room. The cold air swept past the garlands and seeped into the cracks of the hardwood floor. It seemed to leach Christmas spirit from the air. The twinkling lights shuddered, the roaring fire mewed. Gus sighed and didn't stir for a long while. Eventually, he removed the emerald and crimson knit blanket that was laying across his lap and set it aside on the couch. He folded it gently, as it was the one he'd received from Barry May Missile when he'd retired. He was sure he still had the ribbon that was tied around it when she laid it in his arms, double-faced set in to 0.5-inch width, finished with a bow on top, flower style. He inhaled slowly and rose from the couch, bones creaking as he did so. Gus walked closer to his Christmas tree, his arms held behind him as he surveyed the crystalline ornaments and strands of tinsel that embraced the fur. The bow at the top of the tree was his signature, the 12-strand turtle dove. He thought about the last present he ever used that bow on Tilda. It was 1994. The previous winter had been harsh, and the Christmas spirit had been more vital than ever. The licensing contract for the Power Rangers action figures had gone through at the last minute, and elves were working overtime to try and meet demand. And he was right there the whole time. He was in the trenches, working beside the toy makers and the gift wrappers. Elves went home with the smell of plastic on them, like cologne. He went home to Mrs. Claus with multicolored paint under his nails. It was a different era Jay used before he left for the big trip. He gathered everyone up with his sleigh behind him and sacks stuffed to the brim with dolls, action figures, stuffed animals, and gaming systems. He took a moment to look out over the crowd. He shared his feelings of admiration and promised that the effort shown wouldn't go unrewarded. He informed the elves that bonus checks would be under their trees tonight, and they'd all receive 2 weeks of vacation with pay. Gus remembered how easily Kringle could make people feel respected, like the work they did made a difference. Gus would deny it to anyone who asked, but that night, in the crowd, his eyes had been silver with tears as soaring pride overwhelmed him. With one final bellowing laugh, Santa Claus sprang to his sleigh, reins and and promised he'd be back soon for the after-party. He never returned to the North Pole. We waited at the company party until the early morning light, until even the talking snowman had gone home to sleep. There was only one gift left under that tree, a gift to Mr. Kringle from his lower elves. The present that Gus had wrapped so carefully, with a 12-strand turtle dove perched on top, sat under the tree, cold and solemn as a grave. It would never be opened. After that there was a new Santa in town, and everything started to change. The old Mrs. Claus disappeared, our closet still full of red velvet dresses with white faux. For Trim, Dasher, and Dancer refused to fly for 6 months. The milk and cookie demand dropped for the first time in over 100 years. The new big man said he didn't care so much for the corporate mentality, despite his background in sales. He said he wanted the team to feel more like a family and told everyone to just call him Nick. He canceled unnecessary meetings left and right, and that valuable face-to-face time that so many elves had treasured for years was suddenly gone. He had blinked in astonishment when he learned that the majority of Elfkind didn't have their own emails. He said the North Pole was falling behind the times. Firstly, it was only 1996, and secondly, imagine trying to teach a master, a craftsman of 400 years, how to turn on a computer. Frightful. Now, Gus hadn't minded fewer meetings here and there, especially the ones explaining retirement benefits and for 101 kiloseconds. But that winter there had been a rise in cases of sparkling, as the once mandatory glitter safety meetings had been streamlined into pamphlets no one had read and posters that were no bigger than a Christmas card. The big man had taken several vacations during his first year on the job. He was hardly seen by anyone until Thanksgiving. We were lost for those long summer months, without the direction or authority to begin work on next Christmas toys. The new boss had no talent for project management, no passion for the art of scheduling. Weekly scrums were nothing more than a bandage on a gaping wound. All of December had been a crunch, with elves working round the clock to meet the deadline. It was worse than walking on broken ornaments, and he'd rather give up candy canes and go through that again. Gus didn't think a family should make you feel that way. Gus retired in 1996. He took a deep breath and let the scents of peppermint and pine fill his lungs. He took a long pour of eggnog and threw it back, not even bothering to savor it. Then he washed his glass and put it away. He packed his suitcase full of colorful sweaters and his favorite suspend. He unplugged the strands of lights around his house diligently, one after another. After dousing the fire and locking the front door, he took one final look inside at the noble tree standing yard in the dark before he turned on his heel and headed north. He had a feeling he wasn't going to be home for Christmas. They even took away our dental insurance. Cries of outrage flooded the already too hot room as the 12 leaders of the anti-Scrooge movement had gathered at the request of Gus's tinsel trolley. No dental for Christmas elves. We can only take so much disrespect. Vehement shouts of agreement rang out, and the room devolved into chaotic noise again. Gus agreed things were bad. With the current inflation rate, elves were working longer hours for less pay, and most couldn't keep their stockings filled. The strike had slowed things down, to be sure, but the big man had found those few elves who couldn't afford not to work, and production was continuing along, albeit severely delayed. No one truly believed him when he told the strikers that Christmas would still be happening with or without them, but he had refused to hear their demands any longer. Negotiations were off the table, and Christmas was coming fast. How much longer can we really keep this up, though? Burl McMistletoe spoke up. His quiet dissent brought the room to an uneasy lull. Some of us got mouths to feed. He tightened his grip on the pointy felt hat in his hands. Gus knew the boy's father, Bing McMistletoe, and had even worked with him during the great clear tape shortage of 1973. The elf had been a wonder with polystyrene cement and all adhesive-related handwork. He rose from his chair and walked over to Burl, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You have kids?" "Just one. Bubble." "Good name. He's a good kid, and he's a wonder with a glue gun already. You got a picture?" Burl nodded and pulled a photo from his wallet. Bubble was missing several baby teeth and was wearing a hat much too large for him as he grinned at the camera, holding a perfect macaroni nutcracker in one hand and a glue gun in the other. Gus took the picture from Burl and crossed to the front of the room, all eyes on him. He pinned the picture to the corkboard they'd been strategizing on. He took due when the other papers, the list of elves who had joined their cause, copies of the letters of petitions they had sent, and the calendar with December 24th circled in red. He turned around to face the others. "Anyone else have kids?" A few raised their hands and produced photos that Gus pinned next to Bubble. "Bud, what about that vacation you've been saving up for? I'm surprised you remembered." Gus, a small smile crept across Bud's face. He produced a postcard of a beach in the Caribbean that he had always dreamed of visiting, and the crinkled cardstock joined the children on the sea orc board. Slowly but surely the others brought pictures of their own or small reminders that they carried of dreams long held. Lou pinned up the lucky guitar pick he kept on a string, Carol P.R.I.'d, and posted the listing of her dream home. Max Snowfield even drew a wonky-looking pet reindeer on a spare piece of paper and sheepishly attached it to the board. When everyone added their contribution, they stepped back to admire their work. "This is what we're fighting for," Gus said, his throat tight. "Not just the pay, not just the respect, but the time to spend with our children, on our hobbies, our dreams. Just because we live for hundreds of years doesn't mean life isn't still horribly short. We have to see this through, for the dreams they can't take away." Refocused, Gus rolled up his sleeves and was about to prepare for a long night and refill his hot chocolate when his eyes alighted on the guitar pick on the board. His brow creased in thought. "Hey, Lou, do you have access to a recording studio by any chance? My brother's got a little booth at his place. Why, I have a very strange idea." He pulled his budget flip phone from his pocket and scrolled to find a number. "Luann. Carol, you're with me. Bud, Max, I need you to keep pressing the stable elves. Annabelle, call your buddy on the Sack Pack Squad. We lines need all the backup we can get. The other elves exchange day." Look as Gus dialed the number and tapped his foot absent-mindedly. "Hey, Dolly, you remember that favor you owe me? I was wondering if I mig HD cash it in." The golden dulcet tones of Dolly Parton's voice rang out from an MP3 file on the device that Gus placed on Santa's desk. A country remix of the 12 Days of Christmas began to play as Dolly vamped to the instrumentals. Hey y'all, it's Dolly Parton. I wanted to give a big shout out to my friend Gus up there at the North Pole. Happy holidays from your home to men. And may your Christmas be a hoot and a holler. Santa looked up at Gus from under his bushy white eyebrows. What is this? He questioned as he gestured to the gathering of elves before him. Don't you people know I'm busy this time of year? I think you'll want to listen to this. Gus crossed his arms as the song entered into the first verse. On the first day of Christmas, Santa kept from me a list of demands delivered in musical form with ultimatums sung by the ethereal 9 to 5 feet singer herself played for the entire 3 minutes and 52 seconds with no more interruptions from the man in the red suit. Santa sunk further in his chair, his fingers steepling. He steamed like a homemade gingerbread latte, each furious breath wiggling the hairs of his mustache. How could you release this so close to Christmas? Do you have any idea what this will do to the holiday spirit? He pounded his fist on the desk. Oh, we haven't released it yet, and we might never release it. If you sign this agreement right here, right now, Gus gestured to the stack of paper that loose slid to Santa. Dolly sends her love. By the way, of course she does. She's a treasure, Santa muttered as he flicked through the papers, his face turning redder than a cherry. You'll find that if you don't sign this song will trend on TikTok faster than the It's Corn Kid. Gus went on, and you might have a hard time saddling the reindeer this year. I'm afraid the stable crew decided to join our little strike. Be sure to keep those bends clean. A.R. Blitzen had a couple of extra treats before the crew walked out. You can't be serious. Do I need to play the song again? Gus stared down the blue-eyed man and resisted the urge to grin. Burl McMistletoe held his glass of eggnog high as he addressed the crowd of elves, their faces glowing with mirth. All my life I'll never forget the year that Christmas was saved not by reindeer with red noses, not by voices singing loud for all to hear, but by the power of collective bargaining and Dolly Parton. A raucous cheer went up, the clamor shaking the ornaments on the tree. Gus' face was beginning to grow sore after all the smiling he had done that evening. He walked away from the bustle of celebrating elves. In need of a moment of cool air, he stood on the doorstep, shutting it behind him quietly. Fluffy snow was falling softly, and Gus felt the whisper of flakes on his cheek like the embrace of an old friend. Gus stood outside long enough for snow to call, leapt on his shoulders. Minutes later, he saw the familiar broad silhouette of Billy Bowringer standing across the street. He raised his glass of eggnog to him. Billy raised his hand in greeting. Eventually, he even smiled. Then he shook his head and walked away, leaving footsteps in the fresh snow. Merry Christmas to you too. Billy. Story 3. Rebuilding what's no longer mine. My entire world collapsed and I don't know how to build it back up correctly. I've been in a daze. Even on the drive home from school, the town looks different. Another sprawling field torn up, littered with cranes and huge piles of dirt, and signs advertising the coming soon $500,000 homes. Another sheet has sprouted up, plus a new sprouts, or were they there before? My memories shot. My brain does feel like Swiss cheese, or maybe being away changes how you view things, and my lens has already changed after one semester. It's hard to miss this small untie of corn and cows and conservatives after living on campus where classes start with pronoun circles and nobody minds the rainbow pens on my backpack. Tires crunching over salt, I pull up at home behind the Honda Accord Jude got for his 16th birthday, parked in Dad's old spot in the driveway. White Christmas lights string across the front gate, the frieze, the untrimmed boxwoods, an inflatable Santa and family of snowmen hum and flap around in the biting wind like they belong on a used car lot. I wonder if Mom has always wanted to put up outdoor decorations and now felt free enough to owe it now that no one was here to bark complaints about everything she did or felt or desired. We haven't talked about it. I want to console her, but she redirects the focus back on me during Eve, a recheck-in phone call, not wishing to influence my relationship with my father, though she must know my contempt for the man is my own. In my childhood bedroom, I peel off my knit pom-pom hat and my hair chases the static upward. I toss it onto the creaky twin bed and heft my suitcase next to it to unpack. This room already doesn't feel like mine, though it's largely the same as I left it. I left most of my stuff here out of season purses, Sanrio plushies, Polaroids featuring friends I don't talk to anymore, only bringing essentials to not overload my shared dorm. I wanted college to be a fresh start, to reinvent myself, to find myself, to make new friends. Ha, 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 I'm overwhelmed with relief that I'm back home, off campus, safe. I can breathe for the first time in a month. This break will be a welcome distraction and give me time to mull things over. I look up at the glow-in-the-dark stars and planets dead stuck on the ceiling when I was little and my sea. Hest hurts. I leave the room before I finish unpacking, before whatever is trying to make me cry succeeds. Staying in a guest bedroom might make things easier. Downstairs, a huge evergreen burgeons out from a faux snow skirt decorated with classic shiny baubles and strung with red incandescent lights. Someone must have climbed a ladder to get the glittery star topper on. It smells like pine and apple cider. An elf on a shelf lies sexily atop the piano like a lounge singer. Mom comes out from the kitchen with 2 mugs in hand, offering one out to me. After I take it, she pulls me in for a hug. I press the mug into both of my palms and hold the cider under my face, steam warming my chin. Do you like him? Mom gestures to the elf. I saw some people on Facebook doing it and thought it was cute. It is cute, I chuckle, then look around at the space again, jarred by how foreign it feels. The living room I grew up in. Did you rearrange in here? I wanted to move things around a bit. Make it my own space. Your father never liked my sense of style. Yeah. It's very different. I walk up to the tree and delicately hold one of the silver baubles in my hand. I wonder where our old artificial tree is, the same one we'd use every year, and where the old ornaments are the many baby pictures of Jude and I the Looney Tunes ornaments that are essentially plastic action figures on a string. The retro cars we'd position in an imaginary race up the tree, declaring a new winner each year. I'm not used to so much traditional festivity. I thought it was time for us to make our own memories. Mom stirs her cinnamon stick and takes a sip. Things have changed here as much as they've changed. For me, Mom's internal world must have collapsed as much as mine. 32 years of marriage, the entire future she saw for herself. Gone. She's chopped her hair to her ears. isn't wearing mascara or lipstick, and her bare face glows. She looks like she's started eating again, no longer withering away, shrinking herself. Happier, I conclude she looks happier. A tablecloth printed with silver bells covers the dining home table, displaying a small centerpiece of pine cones, holly, and red poinsettias. It's surrounded by tea lights dancing through snowflake and reindeer-shaped holes in the glass holders. Dance of the sugar plum fairy twinkles through the golden horn of Mom's ersatz vintage gramophone. Mom, Jude, and I sit around one end of the table, each with a distinct thin gingerbread hoe. Essie kit before us. I choose the Oreo one because they're my favorite, even though I have no intention of eating it. Our mismatched candies sit between us, so we can use whatever looks best, and I am not inclined to try Sour Patch and chocolate-flavored hard biscuit. House, school, Kelsey, Mom asks in the lull between songs, placing gumdrop lights across her roof. Oh, fine. I do need to talk to her about it. I look to Jude, using tweezers to place an orange sprinkle nose on his marshmallow snowman. Now isn't the time. House classes, air fine, making new friends, Jude looks up with a cocked brow, silent he'd never pry in front of a parent. My focus is drawn back to the house as one of walls topples. I catch it with a sticky and, smearing white across the dark cookie. How are they both? Already decorating? Do you need help, honey? Mom looks at my failing structure and reaches to offer a supporting hand. I am fine. I don't need any help. My tone sharper than I intended. Her hand winces back. I quickly glance over at her wounded eyes, then back to my mess. Sorry, I say, then again more quietly. Sorry, I need a glass of water. I stand, using my forearms to push myself out from the table and to wash my hands. Holding my hands out in front of me, I walk through the archway to the kitchen, recalling the years-long argument. I'm glad Dad wouldn't let Mom knock down this wall and replace it with a half wall. I need a moment unperceived to calm down. Muffled music carries over from the next room, not wanting to get frosting on the light switch. I don't flip on the overheads enough. Moonlight streams in through the glass sliding door, or so I thought. I bump into the island. I rinse at the sink, and there's no hand towel in the immediate vicinity. So I wipe my hands on my jeans. I open the cabinet to grab a glass, but something falls out of it onto the granite countertop. It sounds breakable, and fear rises in my chest. I pick it up, a small lamp made of cool stone, not broken, but maybe fractured in a way I can't see. In the cabinet there are no cups, no dishes at all. Instead, a full nativity scene of figures kneeling under a hutch around the baby Jesus. I gape at it for too long before tucking the lamb back into the hay next to a sleeping donkey. Maybe Mom isn't handling this whole thing as well as I thought. Or maybe the freedom of being able to decorate however she wants without consequence is pushing her to explore some weird options. I guess, besides such a convention, there's no real reason for anything to go anywhere in particular. I open another cabinet, and 100 little black eyes stare back at me. It's full of Mom's complete Santa Around the World collection, each porcelain figurine lined up to closely along the edges of the shelves. Santas wearing turbans and quilted skirts and feathered hats, holding bagpipes and Russian dolls and cool school clocks. I close the door slowly. It still feels like I'm being watched. Not wanting to explore any more cabinets, I decide I don't need a glass. I pull a 50 milliliters peppermint schnapps from my pocket. I haven't had a single thing to drink since I've gotten here. Could explain why I'm so tense. Just need something to loosen up. I down the mini bottle and look around for a trash can, because of course it isn't in the corner where it used to be. My head stops mid-swivel as I make eye contact with an elf on the shelf. Clung to a rope descending from the stove hood, but instead of looking up to where it's climbing, its head is screwed toward me. Did Mom already move it? I thought that was only supposed to happen overnight. My heart starts racing. I put the bottle back in my pocket and cough the burn from my throat. Why is everything so violently unfamiliar and constantly changing? Why can't I get a break? Join me outside. Jude's voice startles me as he walks through the archway, zipping up his hoodie. Yes, please. Soft light seeping from the windows behind us stretches our shadows across the patio. It's colder, than I expected, and I want another glass of cider or another shot of my festive schnapps. Jude and I stroll to Mom's garden. On the tiled path between solar lanterns staked into the dead grass, Jude pulls a pack of Marlboros from his hoodie. You sneak off to smoke now. You sneak off to get drunk now, Jude retorts. I'm not drunk. I had extra slur to my voice and stumbled to make him laugh. It works. So what's wrong with you? He lights up. You dropping out of school. What? How'd you? You aren't exactly subtle. Not as rage-wise as you used to get, but still snappy. I'm not dropping out. Well, not exactly. Did she pick up on it? Were you two talking? She didn't say anything to me. He flicks his ash into the bowl of the frozen-over bird bath. What's not exactly mean? I'm thinking about taking the semester off. I survey the dead flora. There are still a few dead flowers hanging on, with darkened, hardened pistils and wilted petals. A clump of hydrangeas the color of old paper looks like it could break off and start a new life as a tumbleweed. You'd move back here. I sighed deeply. Yes, I don't know how to ask Mom about it. I'm nervous to even ask her to sleep in a guest bedroom tonight. I don't think she'd care. She'd probably grab your bags and move you over herself. I know it. It's just I don't know. I've only been gone for one semester, and everything feels so different. I say I don't say. It's almost like I don't belong here anymore either. Yeah? Mom's kinda gone bananas. He snickers. Jude, it's true. I heard you open the nutcracker cabinet. Oh no, there's one full of nutcrackers too. I try to cover my mouth, but can't help joining in his laughter. It's nightly weird, but... He sits on the white wrought iron bench nestled between two bushes of dead twigs. I stay standing because I'm sure the metal is freezing. She's been moving everything around, needing everything to transform or evolve since Dad left, and it has been different, mostly in a good way. You don't miss him? Are you kidding? Jude snorts. I do miss you though. Are you really coming back? Why would you leave school? I silently stare into the swirl of roses twisted into the bench behind Jude. I got assaulted. I spit out before the word can snag itself on my tongue. Oh, shit. He offers his cigarette out to me. I'm good. I wave it away. It was the best friend I've made there. I spent the night in his dorm room. His roommate was away. We were having a movie night because I hadn't seen any Ghibli movies, and there, his favorite. I stop. I don't want to start thinking about it. I shift my gaze to Jude. It's funny, it took me multiple sessions with the school counselor for me to admit that to her. Thanks for trusting me with it. The pity in his brow softens. You don't need to use therapy. Speak of hours. I trust you. I lightly shove him. I didn't realize how much I missed my baby brother while I've been away, but I do think I need to get off campus. I can't do it anymore. That makes sense. He bends to twist his cigarette into a frosted mulch bed, then hugs me. You don't need to tell Mom, but she'd support you. No matter what, I'm here for you. After Jude gets me a glass, most of the cups are in the fridge, so they're pre-cold like an oven is pre-warmed. I linger in the dining room before heading upstairs, and the water washes the sour taste from the back of my mouth. Oh, holy night spills from the gramophone as the tea light candles flicker, yet to be snuffed out, left to melt until they drown their own flame. My gingerbread construct more resembles a framed cabin rather than anything traditional, but at least it's still standing between the houses. The leftover candy still sit out, and the frosting has been left to harden in the bowls and piping bags. An elf sits on the edge of a bowl of mandams, looking longingly at my cabin, head tilted slightly, hands on its cheeks. How many of these does Mom have? I wonder if there's another cabinet full of the mess. Where, and just grateful this one is more cute than creepy. The red light of the Christmas tree guides me to the stairs, and I stick my hand into the garland wrapped around the railing. I hid back to this room that doesn't feel like my room, in this house that doesn't feel like my house, to get some sleep. I don't need to switch to a guest room tonight, and I can unpack in the morning. Nothing is urgent or dire. Everything may be disparate, but right now I'm safe enough to fall asleep under the familiar glowing stars and planets. Story 4. Figgy pudding. You struggle to wake up on Christmas morning. You want to stay in bed in your Christmas pajamas, covered up in several layers of blankets as if you were lasagna. You feel safe and away from the fear under the sheets. There is something about this Christmas that seems off, almost as if Santa was a harbinger of an upcoming mental breakdown. You blame part of your mood and current lack of energy on the fact you were up late bouncing from store to store, waiting in long lines with your fellow procrastinators, trying to purchase whatever rejected gift ideas were left as last-minute presents. It was easy to lose the holiday spirit when dealing with overworked employees, frazzled customers, and a parking lot full of drivers whose behavior would have made Ebenezer Scrooge blush. Yet THIS is unlike you. You usually start your shopping on Black Friday and are done by Cyber Monday. You spend a weekend watching Hallmark Christmas movies as you meticulously wrap each present as if you were Joanna Gaines. This year, not even hot frosty tempted you. Seeing the pile of naked presents in the corner forces you out of bed. You rush to stuff all the gifts in bags that do not match in size. You crumple a single tissue and toss it in each bag so that it barely hides the present. Everyone is so self-absorbed in their own problems that you doubt they will notice that the gifts look like Grandma wrapped them after she got run over by a reindeer. You change into the sweater you wore last year, the one emblazoned with gangster wrapper above a picture of Santa dabbing. You look at the mangled gift bags and look for a more accurate sweater. You pull out one adorned with Christmas trees, candy canes, and snowflakes. Printed on the sweater were 3 words: Go Elf. Yourself, perfect. You place reindeer antlers on your head and go to a mirror. Despite the Christmas get-up, there is nothing merry nor bright about your appearance. You wear a smile faker than the Christmas tree you would have bought had you been in the spirit. It will have to do. We wish you a Merry Christmas blaze on the radio as you start the car. You are abo to turn off the music when you hear the line about figgy pudding. Isn't that life, you muse? We want good tidings, but all we get is figgy pudding, a dessert no one likes. Each song resonates with your current state of mind as the warm baritone voice of Bing Crosby fades and is replaced by the icy soprano voice of Mariah Carey. You quickly turn off the radio and enjoy the silent night. Your sister gives you a perfunctory greeting as you head to the Christmas tree to put away the gifts. You stare at the string of lights. They seem dimmer, more muted than normal. You could swear that the lights are blinking in Morse code, warning you of the dangers to come. Your sister offers you eggnog, but you tell her you're abstaining from all holiday spirits. You head to the couch in a feeble attempt to sit alone until dinner. People approach you, trying to engage in small talk that would make an elf seem large. You wonder if your family can also feel how wrong the whole idea has been. Maybe they, too, are simply playing a part in this year's Christmas pageant. Can they tell you are pretending to? The calls to gather around the dinner table indicate that the evening is halfway over. You head over and look at the feast your sisters spent hours working on. Within minutes, the meal worthy of being on the cover of Bon Appetit would be decimated. It seems wrong to you that such hard work, such beauty, can be fleeting. Does no one else see the injustice? While the food looked delicious, the taste was lacking. Typically, your sister's cooking was flavorful and executed to perfection. Now, the turkey is dry, the mashed potatoes lumpy, the rolls undercooked, and the green bean casserole has as much flavor as it has creativity. You look around and see everyone enjoying the meal. You assume it is because it is easier to swallow the seasoning of lies than the blandness of reality. Worse still, everyone around you appears to be having a good time, laughing, reminiscing, and being overall merry. There is no way they all are acting. How could they not feel that something is off? You feel like you are losing the last few tethers you had to reality. There was something different, something sinister about this Christmas, and no one seemed to notice or care about it besides you. When it came time to unwrapping gifts, you wanted to wrap yourself in your blankets. Back at home, you watch as family members go through the motions. Motion 1. Open gift. Motion 2. Unconvincingly say you love it. Motion 3. Conclude with a toothless thank you. Motion 4. Forgot about the last gift and move on to the next. Everything seems scripted and unauthentic. They only seem to care about the gift rather than the giver. You wonder if maybe it isn't just Christmas that appears off, but rather you finally see the holiday for what it is, a celebration of capitalism. You tell everyone you need to leave early because you have to be at work at an ungodly time tomorrow. You say your goodbyes and head to your car. Wait, you hear your sister yell. You stop and turn to face her. She is shivering as she has forgotten her jacket. She asks, "How you holding up?" You say the same thing you have said to everyone who has asked that question. "I am all right, hanging in there." Your sister refuses to accept that answer. "You really think I don't know you well enough to tell when you're lying?" "Nah, really, how are you?" You feel the tears you have been running away from begin to run free. It's been hard. You say, "Nah, you cannot stop the tears from coming." She always loved Christmas. It was her favorite holiday. Your sister envelops you in her arms. Even without the jacket, she emanates warmth. You rest your weary head on her shoulders. The grief that you have been feeling the past few weeks is still there, but so is love. Her hugs are exactly like you remember. Story 5. Stargazy Pie, with rumblings of war rolling along the coastline. The knock startled Cecil. His grip tightened on the pewter plates as knees of foreboding took hold. Opening the door revealed a handsome stranger with refined features as if carved from marble. He had jet black hair and eyes that glinted like cold steel. "Good evening and happy Christmas," said the stranger in a rich baritone. "My apologies for the intrusion, but it seems my carriage has lost a wheel just up the road. Might I trouble you for some shelter from the cold while my man fetches assistance?" Cecil hesitated. He had been expecting his brother-in-law. He was struck dumb before he could collect his wits. His wife appeared behind him. "Mariase?" she asked, seeing the stranger standing in the door. She apologized. "Sorry, I thought you were me brother." His carriage threw a wheel. Cecil said, "Of course, please come in," Sharon said, nudging her husband aside and opening the door wider. The stranger rubbed down his arms as if to shift rain from his finely tailored long coat. Though wary, Cecil relented under his wife's insistence as the stranger stepped inside, removing his leather gloves. Cecil couldn't shake the feeling of darkness lurking beneath the polished, genteel surface. He led the man toward the sitting room as Sharon fetched some tea, hoping his instinct was wrong. The man shrugged off his jacket, folded it neatly, and put his Homburg on top. "I'm Cecil, by the way," he added politely. "And you are?" "Moloch, Abraham Moloch," said the stranger with a thin smile as he took a seat by the fire. "A pleasure to make your acquaintance. What brings you to this part of the coast?" Cecil asked. Sharon returned with a tea tray, casting a reproachful look at Cecil for not taking the stranger's bag or hanging his hat. "Please make yourself comfortable, Mr. Moloch," she said warmly, handing him a cup just then. Their two children peeked into the room, eyes widening at the unfamiliar guest. They had heard rumors of German soldiers landing along the coast and were wary. "The tall one is Felix, the runt is Jasper," Sharon said. She busied herself pouring tea. Checking his sack coat, Mr. Moloch's face soured. "I seem to be out of cinder toffees. Bad luck. Perhaps next time." He then opened his bag and pulled out a few colorful Christmas crackers. The children's caution vanished at the sight. "For your little ones," Mr. Moloch said with a genteel nod, handing the crackers to Sharon. She gave them to the delighted children. The stranger made a show of patting his pockets. "My apologies. I seem to have left my car and purse on my carriage." He turned to Cecil. "Please "Take this as a token for your hospitality," he said, offering a large golden ring set with a glittering red gemstone. Cecil politely declined. "That won't be necessary. Really, we're happy to help." Mr. Moloch insisted, but Cecil refused once more. Finally, Mr. Moloch returned the ring to his pocket, a flicker of irritation passing over his features before the charming smile reappeared. In her lilting accent, Sharon offered to share their dinner. "There's plenty of Stargazy pie and stewed greens to go around. 'Tis no trouble." Mr. Moloch accepted graciously. "You are too kind. I apologize for the inconvenience. I'm on my way to London to view a portrait. Please let me contribute." "It's not a bother." Moloch's voice rumbled. Like distant artillery, Cecil imagined the windows rattling. "Oh, nonsense. Travelers are welcome. It wouldn't be Christian of us to turf you out," Sharon said, then turned sharply to the children. "And don't you dare be popping them crackers till supper." She instructed Cecil to fetch an extra place setting and Yale to the kitchen for one of the children to bring the stool so Mr. Moloch had a place to sit, leaving to finish the cooking preparations. She tossed a meaningful glance at her husband. With Sharon gone, Mr. Moloch again offered Cecil the ring. "Please, I must insist. Consider it thanks for your hospitality." This time, with no one else present, Cecil accepted it, sliding the ring onto his finger. The red gem glinted in the firelight. Mr. Moloch smiled, leaning back with a smirk. Cecil studied the ring on his aunt. It looked expensive. How would he explain this extravagant gift to Sharon? She had refused it just minutes ago. Perhaps he could trade it in the village without her ever knowing. He quickly took it off and put it in his pocket. The family sat down to dinner, with the older boy pushing the stool into Jasper's spot. The smell of fresh bread and fish followed Sharon. Jasper's knees poked up too high, so he stretched his legs out to the sides. "Don't be rockin', Jasp. We've got company." Sharon put her hand on Jasper's leg to hold him still. Jasper moved the wiggles up to his shoulders in defiance. "We've got plenty o' food. I'm afraid we've mashed together our holidays on account o' me brother comin' from the war. He should be along any time now." Cecil whistled. "Don't mind my wife. She's Cornish and a wee bit potty." Sharon playfully smacked Cecil's shoulder. "You familiar with the story of Tom Bawcock? It's Mryosek's favorite holiday, so we didn't want him to miss out. Would you like me to wreck out the tale?" Cecil feigned disinterest, having heard it many times before. "It's just a fish tale." "I'd love to hear it." Mr. Moloch's eyes opened. "Why, dinner and ASH. Ah, you are too kind." Clearing her throat, Sharon launched into song. "A merry plaise you may believe was mouse hole pon Tom Bawcock's eve. To be theer then, oh, what'n wish to sup o' 7 sorts o' fish." Cecil interjected. "Cowl, do you at least sing in plain English?" "Dear, I was," Sharon replied indignantly, then laughed at her flustered husband. The children joined in teasing Cecil as she continued. "When Murgy broth had cleared the path come lances for a fry, and then us had a bit o' scad and starry gazy pie." Mr. Moloch applauded enthusiastically, rising to his feet. "Marvelous. You have a true gift, my dear. Thank you for sharing such a delightful folk tale." Sharon beamed, giving a slight curtsy before urging everyone to tuck into the feast before them. The children reached for the Christmas crackers, Mr. Moloch raised a hand. Please allow me to share a tradition from my home. Are you familiar with Snapdragon? Cecil perked up, recalling playing it as a boy, earning his mouth in the process. He nodded with a grin. From his bag, Mr. Moloch produced a tin of dried fruits, 10 almonds, and a bottle of brandy. Using the lid of the tin as a dish, he tapped out a few pieces of fruit and doused them with the brandy. He lit the fruit with a match. They ignited and blew fire. Plucking a piece of dried apple up, he popped it into his mouth, then blew out a small blue flame. The children watched enthralled. When Felix reached out, Mr. Moloch pulled the tin away. There is a rule to this game. A way to show what you are most thankful for. He turned to Cecil meaningfully, and this dance with fire and shadow reveal the ember burning deepest within. Speak not of fleeting joy, but lay bare the pulsating rhythm that makes you feel alive, for in the flicker of this flame you offer the essence binding you to existence, the marrow of your being. Choose wisely, for what you express in this dance may echo beyond the crackling fire. Cecil tensed, unsettled by the speech. He started to object, but Sharon and the children insisted on playing. Reluctantly, Cecil nodded, hoping it was merely an odd tradition and nothing more. Jasper went first, popping a flaming fig into his mouth and blowing out a wisp of blue flame. My fossil collection, he declared proudly. Felix blew a slightly larger plume. My brother, Jasper took a moment to decide if that was an insult, and chose to accept it as so with a broad, crooked smile. Sharon selected a piece of dried plum, popped it in her mouth, and blew a mode's burst of blue. My singing voice, of course. She put her hand to her mouth, blooming hot. Cecil blew a flame and said, maintaining our thankful village. Why, all returned so far from the war. Mr. Moloch inhaled deeply, then exhaled an enormous writhing blue jet. Nothing, he uttered in his deep bass. They pulled their Christmas crackers with a festive, the popping a scattering of paper crowns and trinkets spread across the table. But then Cecil noticed Jasper was gone. On the empty place where Jasper had sat was a letter stating Miasek had died in the trenches in Lakato. Somberly, they had set the extra place for the missing brother, the first casualty of war come to their village. Cecil looked around, confused. Hadn't someone been sitting across from him just a moment ago? He felt bad for his wife. She'd been so upset. It was nice, however, to have a house guest. He also wondered why Felix was using the kitchen stool and not the chair set for his brother-in-law's spirit. But glancing at Mr. Moloch's smiling face, the question slipped from Cecil's mind. Sharon offered to sing Tom Bawcock's tale in her gravelly voice. Mr. Moloch was eager to hear it. She began. A merry plaus you may believe was mousel pon Tom Bawcock's Eve ... Cecil quickly stopped her, feeling something. She was amiss. Her voice wasn't her best trait. It's a Cornish tradition about a fisherman during a time of famine who bravely set out in a storm to feed the town where Sharon came up. Mr. Moloch proposed at a round of Snapdragon, calling it a beloved pagan tradition where you express gratitude. Wary but enticed, Cecil agreed to play, as did an enthusiastic Felix and Sharon. Mr. Moloch turned to Cecil. As the flames dance, whisper the heartbeat of your existence. Share not what you cherish, but the core defining your breath. What in your soul would you sacrifice to the hungry fire? Fell. Hicks blew a blue jet, my boxing gloves. Sharon smiled proudly at her son's first true passion. She blew her flame. My son Felix being, Cecil contemplated a moment before, reblowing his fiery breath, the proud, strong Royal Navy keeping invaders at bay. As the crackers popped, Sharon let out a wail. Felix was gone, sobbing. She explained her beau was killed in the German shelling of the coast. He was so fond of intent fossils after boxing in Whitby. My apologies for her. It's been a trying time, Cecil said. She'd lost her voice. See, from ceaseless weeping over the past fortnight, Mr. Moloch looked pained. My sincerest regrets at your loss. They sat in silence for a few moments, so Sharon could collect herself. Perhaps a round of snapdragon to lift spirits, Mr. Moloch suggested. My family tradition is to share what we are most thankful for. He turned to Cecil. You know the rules. Speak the fire wit. In the pulse of your sacrifice, what do you cherish most? Sharon blew a wisp of blue. My lovely home. Cecil contemplated before breathing his flame. My beautiful wife. Mr. Moloch rumbled. Nothing. His jet dwarfing theirs. The crackers popped like artillery fire as Cecil transitioned to sitting with Mr. Moloch in a seaside shack. Cecil drank heavily from the offered brandy, lamenting his wife, his children, his home, his brother. He stared at the letter telling of his brother-in-law's death. Cecil's memories slipped away like vapor. He regretted not living the leaf. He wanted, blaming the demon drink that stole his wife, kids, and chance to take his place in battle. Mr. Moloch offered dried fruit and a game of snapdragon to lift his spirits. Sacrifice tea. He sparked, keeping your flame alive, fueling your dance and shadows. He instructed. Cecil blew a wisp of blue, my health. Mr. Moloch rumbled. Nothing. Then he of fear. A Christmas cracker. The pop left a hint of black powder in the air. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. And a bedroom. Mr. Moloch sat beside Cecil. They played again, Cecil sacrificing his only prized possession, the ring sitting heavy in his pocket. Mr. Moloch blew out a large flame and crunched into his almond, then said nothing. Cecil stood to pull the cracker. Mr. Moloch assisted Cecil's palsied hand. A pop and a wisp of smoke. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Cecil reached for the flaming fruit, blew out a flame. My home, they pulled the cracker together. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Mr. Moloch offered his coat to Cecil, a destitute man. On the roadside, he pulled the table and chairs from the back of his broken coach, then invited Cecil to share some stargazy pie while his carriage was repaired. Cecil recognized the pie and table. Memories of his wife and children flooded back. He despaired at their loss. The rancid pie at the end of Cecil's ordeal seemed a mockery, stale remnants of a life freely sacrificed to an insatiable demon. Despite this, the food was more than welcome. Each bite revealed years of life, each crumb a precious scene. He ate at his memories as a starved man. Please return all as at Washington. I refuse to play Snapdragon any longer, he pleaded. Mr. Moloch just smiled. One final cracker. He shook the cracker enticingly. Cecil cried, my life I'd trade my life for. There's finally, Mr. Moloch uttered, holding out the cracker. This time Cecil got the bigger half. Dreadful luck, Cecil. He set the paper crown atop Cecil's head. Strands of Cecil's hair drifted onto Mr. Moloch's sleeve. Cecil sat numbly as Mr. Moloch brushed off the fallen hair, gingerly placing one in his front vest pocket. You traded your life, family, and youth for a ring, and even the ring you returned. When will humans learn to give selflessly? But what of my children's souls? Cecil asked, his voice frail but insistent. Their bodies. I can find to use their souls of their own, replied Moloch, tapping his finger to his lips. You know, I never ask for children, yet I'm often offered them. Perhaps you know why humans so eagerly trade their future. Cecil had a coughing fit. I am not heartless. Spiritually, added Moloch, I can offer you one last challenge, a gift if you answer a riddle. But you would not know the gift beforehand. Having nothing left, Cecil accepted the challenge. This one was from a Canaanite whom I knew several lifetimes ago. In every heartbeat and every sigh, I'm the real son you laugh and the tears you cry. From the first cry of newborn breath to the quiet stillness at death's edge. What am I? Moloch adjusted his hat and waved to his coach. I am expected in London to collect a portrait of a young man. It seems its owner has withered away. In a locked room, the damn fool, he smiled. Souls aren't typically my business, but that fellow, please, let me think in silence. Moloch shrugged. Life, Cecil said, sure of his answer. Please, give me my family, my wife, Jasper. I beg you, I want peace. Please, I have given up everything, corrected. Act, Moloch said. He handed Cecil a draught. If you drink it, none of this would matter. He waved his hands theatrically. Far out at sea a ship was on fire. The scent of gunpowder and death rolled over the seaside like a fog. Cecil was caught by hope's web. He imagined he'd wake with his family by his side, so he drank without hesitation. The blue liquid smelled of blueberries and spirits. The flavor was a simple, leaf floral sweetness, but empty, like drinking a whole asterisk. He was alone, holding an empty bottle. He began a long, quiet walk down a dark road. A carriage passed wit. Then a beautiful voice rang out. A merry plause you may believe was Mazel pon Tom Balcock Sieve. To be theer then, oh, wudden wish to suppose sim sort so fesh. When Morgie Brath had cleared the path, come lank, as for a fry, and then us had a bed o' scad and starry gazy pie. Next come Fermods, bra thusty yards, as ma they are oozles dry, and ling and hawk, enough to mock a run and shark to sigh, each would clunk as all were drunk and bumpers bremen why, and when up come Tom, Balcock's nam we presed into the sky. To boys waved from the carriage window at the old man wearing a paper crown. Cecil smiled at them as they passed. On the 24th to the 25th of December, an unofficial truce was declared along the Western Front. Peace for a day. Perhaps Moloch was not entirely heartless. Cecil did ask for peace. Story 6. Silent Keys on Christmas Eve. The freeway stretched black and endless beneath the starlit December sky, its shoulders rimmed with snowdrifts that gleamed under the moon. Swirls of snow from the north wind slithered like snakes across the road, hissing as they scraped against the guardrail. Inside the car the heater hummed, but the cold pressed through the seams, frosting the edges of the windshield. Michael gripped the wheel tighter than usual, jaw set against the storm, guilt pressing in like a second weight on his chest. He had stayed late in the city to file a brief, chasing the approval of senior partners, and now they were behind schedule, running straight into the winter clipper they had hoped to avoid. He was a junior member of the firm his father had started. One day Michael would be a senior partner, but tonight's ambition felt hollow. He wanted to be seen as diligent, independent, determined to prove himself apart from his father's legacy. Yet the cost of that determination sat strapped in the back seat. Claire sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, a quiet tether against the storm. 3-year-old Fallon hummed. In the back seat, clutching her stuffed bear with sleepy devotion, Grandpa's fireplace, she whispered, half dreaming, her voice muffled. That's where Santa comes, CL. Hare could see her round little face reflected in the mirror mounted in front of the rear-facing seat, a small window into innocence. For 3 years, they had kept the tradition alive. Santa always came down Michael's rent's chimney, leaving presents by the fire for Fallon to discover on Christmas morning. Then the wind rose, a warning whispered to late. Another furious gust barreled across the freeway, spinning snow like knives. The tires lost grip. Michael fought the wheel, but the car skidded, lurched, and slammed into the guardrail. The world blurred. Claire's cry, the shattering glass, Fallon's small body thrown against her car seat's back. Then silence, broken only by the hiss of the wind. The adults absorbed the rapid deceleration, but Fallon's smaller brain, floating in crystal clear flew. It struck bone, tiny vessels tore, releasing threads of blood that unfurled like ink in water. Michael smelled gasoline and scorched rubber, the acrid reminder of how quickly control can vanish. At the ethical center, everything moved too fast. Nurses and surgeons rushed Fallon into surgery, her head injury grave, but not hopeless. Her brain swelled just enough to require a drain to relieve the pressure. Claire stayed near the operating room, lips moving in prayer, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles blanched. Michael couldn't sit still. Guilt gnawed at him. If only he hadn't worked late. If only they'd left earlier. If only he'd been more careful. He wandered the hospital's corridors, footsteps echoing against sterile tile, the air sharp with antiseptic. Hospitals always smelled the same. He thought antiseptic and fear, no matter the city. Then he heard it. Faint music drifting from the atrium. A piano playing silent night. The atrium was dim, lit by strings of holiday lights draped across the railings. At its center stood a 2-story tree built from small volunteer-decorated pines arranged on a conifer-shaped frame. The scent of evergreen mingled faintly with antiseptic, a strange marriage of festivity and fear. At the piano sat an elderly man, clothed in a hospital gown, its fabric loose against his frail arm, an intravenous line taped to his arm, the fluid bag beside him on a pole. His fingers moved gracefully across the keys, weaving carols into something softer, almost improvised, as though the music itself was breathing. The notes rose and fell, echoing against tile and glass, filling the atrium like breath. Michael stood listening until the man looked up. His eyes were kind, though shadowed by age. "You look burdened," the man said. His voice was gentle, steady despite the tether. Michael swallowed. "My daughter. She's in surgery, head injury, Christmas Eve, and it's my fault I kept us late. The wind." His words broke. The man nodded, still playing. "Sometimes the wind carries us. where we're meant to be. Michael frowned. Meant to be, S. He's 3 years old. She was waiting for Santa, and now she's... He couldn't finish. The melody shifted, flowing into a lullaby his mother used to sing. I sat here once, the man said softly. Years ag. Oh, my child was in surgery too. I prayed. I blamed myself. I begged for miracles, and I learned something. There are no flawless choices. Mistakes mark us, not define us. His hands worked independently of his words on the white and black keys, coaxing warmth from wood and wire. Michael studied him. No nurse checked on the man. His hospital bracelet was faded, unreadable. The fluid bag hung, motionless as if untouched, and the music seemed to echo Michael's thoughts, answering them before he spoke. Who are you? Michael whispered. The man smiled faintly. Someone who knows storms, he said. Nothing more. Michael sat on the bench beside him, listening. Music wrapped around him like warmth. He thought of Fallon's laughter, of the way her eyes lit up at the fireplace. Each year, he realized she didn't care about timetables or briefs. She cared about love, presence, and tradition. And suddenly the man's words felt less like philosophy and more like truth. Mistakes had carried him here, but love would carry him forward. The surgeon appeared. Mr. Carter, your daughter's out of surgery. She's stable. Relief flooded Michael. He turned to thank the pie. Honest, but the bench was empty. The piano lid was closed. The atrium silent. Fallon lay in intensive care, small and pale, but breathing steadily with the help of a ventilator. A drain from her head dripped dark fluid into a bag beside the bed. Claire held her hand, tears streaking her cheeks. Michael kissed his daughter's forehead, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. The breathing tube and drain came out in 3 days, leaving only a patch of bruised scalp with tiny stitches. Daddy, Fallon murmured, her first words in a raspy, half-dreaming voice. Did Santa find the fireplace? Michael smiled through tears. Santa finds us wherever we are. By the next day she was moved to a hospital floor, and 2 days later the family completed the journey. The fire crackled, stockings hung, and Fallon's eyes widened at the sight of wrapped gifts waiting by the hearth. Michael stood back, watching the glow of the flames dance across her face. Santa came as usual. We left all the presents where he put them, Michael Sr. said, smiling at his granddaughter. Outside, the wind rose again. For a moment, Michael thought he heard faint piano and oats on the gust. Silent night, drifting through the cold. The sound mingled with the crackle of the fire and the laughter of family. He remembered the man's words. Mistakes mark us, not define us. And as Fallon's laughter rose above the crackle, he believed them. Story 7. Before I lose you... One winter's secret might finally shatter the most important relationship Shayla has left. Per usual, Shayla calls and I come, running, willingly every single time. The guys never miss an opportunity to mock me for being there whenever she calls, but I don't care. He needs me more than ever now, and I won't disappoint her or leave her to get through the first Christmas since Josie died alone. Basketball got cut short to hang ornaments and hopefully make her crack a smile. For as long as I can remember, I've loved Shayla. From the first time I met her back in high school, I looked at her and saw the beauty of her spirit. She has eyes that truly are the windows to her soul, a piercing yet soft stare that would make any man who's not secure in themselves uncomfortable. I'll never forget meeting her on what seemed like the hottest day of August at the bus stop, both of us visibly irritated with how long we had been waiting, beads of sweat on our foreheads, and she looked up at me with those eyes before asking if I had the bus tracker app on my phone. God must have favored me that day because I had downloaded it a few days before I was able to strike up a conversation after answering her question, and she hasn't been able to get rid of me since. She's my best friend, my confidant, and the safe space I never knew I needed. I can't imagine my life without her. I thought I had lost the battle to the guys I was about to start without you. Shayla teases as she swings the door open to usher me inside. Warm vanilla fills the air, her mother's favorite candle. I have smelled at every ornament hanging for the last 10 years, but this is the first time we're not in the presence of the woman who put cheer in Christmas cheer. Shayla won't let the tradition die, and somehow this makes me fall for her even harder. Let me get the cookies, ooh, tea of the oven. I know you don't play about these butter cookies. She had the strength to pull out Tozie's recipe book. This girl's strength never ceases to amaze me. What are you thinking about? She asks. I wish I could tell her, wondering if I should call my brother and let him know the nearest ER in case these cookies take me out. I joke. Don't play with me, Deontay, UK. Now my mama made sure I could throw down. She replies with a smirk that quickly fades. The grief in her eyes becomes visible. She looks away and I quickly change the subject. Where's your boy? I just knew he'd be here to hate on me. I couldn't finish my sentence before the phone rang on the counter. It was him, Kendall. Shayla has never picked men who actually cared about her. She always picks the ones who treat her as a trophy. Kendall is no different, a corporate businessman with a polished smile to distract you from his terrible personality. Hey, baby, she answers sweetly. I roll my eyes, grab a cookie, and head back to the living room. Hey, babe, I'm glad you were able to come by. I know you've been so busy, and work has been hectic because of the year-end. I pray he notices that even in my sorrow, I still care. Yeah, it's been crazy, he says bluntly. I have to talk to you about something. Shayla, have a seat. I ask it down, a lump in my throat and my stomach in knots, afraid of what's coming next because he never calls me Shayla. Okay, what's up? He inhales deeply, stares across the room, and turns to me before saying, this hasn't been working for me, and I've been trying to figure out how to say it without hurting you. That's the last thing I hear. My chest tightens, my breathing is shallow, and I fight back the hot tears welling up in my eyes. Get out. He's startled by the outburst. I thought we could talk about this like adults and amicably break things off. Get the fuck out, Kendall, I say in what I'm sure sounded like a growl. I slammed the door behind him and let the tears flow down my face. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me like this. The audacity of this man to come to my house, to not even consider the pain I'm already in, to break up with me during the hardest time of my life. Fuck him. I grab my smoothie, my car keys, and my purse before heading out the door to work. I have had the luxury of never having to clean my car off after it snows because I have the sweetest neighbor. He cleans my car in the wee hours of the morning, and I take him over cookies every once in a while to say thanks, and no matter how many times this happens, he always appears to be taken aback that I'm bringing him cookies. Deontay, I'm not ready to talk about it. Can we talk about something else? I talk to Deontay on the way to work most days, but today I'm just not feeling it. Actually, I'll call you back later. I let my feelings get the best of me. I wanted to hear her say she never wanted to see Kendall again. I wanted to let her pour her heart out so I could wrap my arms around her if only it were through the phone. I wanted her to know that she was safe and will always have me, but I'm sure that backfired. She couldn't get off the phone fast enough. Deontay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. Lunch is on me. Call me later if you're up to it. I stare at the message and wait to see if the bubble appears from her writing back. Shayla. Aw, Dee. It's okay. Everything is a lot, and I'm just trying to make sense of so much. But thanks for the lunch. You know I'll never turn that down, LOL. Mr. Ramsey shakes his head at me after seeing that I circled the block to shovel the sidewalk and make a path from her door. Boy, when are you going to tell that girl that it's you doing all of this? I'm sure she thinks something is wrong with me because I'm dumbfounded every time she comes over here with them cookies. You eat them though, don't you? Yep, they're a great reward for my secrecy. We both laugh, and I get started on the work I've tasked myself with. I can't risk losing her. What would she think of me telling her I'm in love with her? I spent years listening to her deepest, darkest secrets, and not what couldn't be the most inopportune time I confess my love. Absolutely not. If I can't have her as my woman, I'll always remain what I've always been, her friend, her safe space, her constant, even if it hurts. Shayla, yes, I jump at the sound of my assistant's voice. Thomas wants to know if you can set up a meeting with him to discuss the figures you came up with for the marketing budget of this new product. Yeah. Okay, let's set something up for next week. Let everyone know I'll be taking the next 2 days off. Actually, I should probably head out now. I have a family emergency. The walls feel like they're closing in. The wind makes my tears feel like needles to my skin. But my soul needs this release. I wish I could call my mama. I wish that Kendall didn't mean anything to me. But neither option holds any weight. Mama's not here anymore, and my heart hurts. I just need to get home. Mr. Ramsey has outdone himself. The sidewalk is shoveled and a path is made. At least he cares about me. I exit the car, moving as fast as I can without running to evade the bone-chilling cold. Deontay, what are you doing here? I freeze in place. My heart instantly races at the sound of her voice. What should I say? What are you doing here? That was dumb, but it buys me time. Bag of salt in one hand, shovel in the other. I can't lie to her. I live here. Fool. Now explain to me what's going on here. I knew you were having a hard day, and I messed up earlier, so I just wanted to take something off your plate. I hope she buys it. Speaking of buying, she then took my money because obviously she's not at work buying lunch. That's so sweet of you, man. I told you everything was okay. I'm just super emotional. Don't take anything I say or do right now personally. I'm slow to respond because this is a perfect moment to tell her it wouldn't matter how she reacted. I'd still be right here making sure she has everything she needs. Got it. Well, I was putting these things back so I could head home before I rush away to avoid her seeing any signs of anything other than her doting best friend written all over my face. I notice what looks like white tats etched on her beautiful face afar. Tears that she obviously cried on the way here, and I can't help myself. Do you want me to stick around? I could call off. I'm always down to play hooky from TH. Gig. Everything in me is praying that she says yes, What? Yeah. Let's chill and watch some comedy specials. Her voice trails off, but I hear her mumble fuck Kendall moo. Sick to my ears. So you really weren't going to tell me that you shoveled the snow for me? I mean, I've only been hiding these types of gestures for years now. Nah, for what I don't know. Do you believing you can expect this of me all the time? I laughed, knowing it would be the best thing that happened to me to be able to do just that. Boy, ain't no shame in my game. Closed mouths done. Get fed, and I'm going to ask for a favor every time. We both laugh, and I stop to study her smile. The grace she's embodying, or going through so much internally. My mama always told me to keep you around, but that's only because she didn't know the version of you that I do, slick as a can of oil. Josie has always had an eye for greatness. What can I say? Yeah, whatever. We hold each other's gaze a little longer than friends should, and it sends bolts of lightning through my body to even consider that she could have something for me. Or could it be the pang of loneliness she's feeling? Deontay, I nearly dropped the tea kettle from the urgency in Shayla's voice. Yeah. I call out as I rush into the living room to make sure nothing is wrong. I just went out to grab my package from the porch, and Mrs. Henderson seems to think that it was you who cleaned my car off this morning. In fact, she insisted it was you and was happy that I finally caught you. What? Yeah. She said that she's watched you do so much for me over the years, and she's been rooting for you the entire time. Old people can be so damn nosy. So, you're saying she's right, hands crossed, and I was watching my every move before I answer. I'm lost for words because I can't lie to her. She's right, you're my best friend. Is it a bad thing that I like to make sure you're good? No. But why keep it a secret? Because I value our friendship, bro. What are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything? Because I sking love you, Shayla, and I never wanted to make things weird between us. It slips out my mouth before I have the chance to catch it. The silence is deafening, and I instantly feel like my greatest fear has just come true. Her face is still. I can't read it. What? I see the tears welling up in her eyes, and I feel like a complete idiot. Shayla, I whisper, and sure if I'm apologizing or pleading, she steps back, wipes the tears from her eyes, and stares at me for a second longer. I'm already a mess, D. What is this? She whispers. I know. It's all I can muster up to say at the moment. I don't know what to say. I'm grieving my mom. Kendall blindsided me, and now this. I'm not expecting anything of you, Shayla. You don't have to say anything. She turns her back to me, and I can see her body convulse from allowing the emotions to wash over her. What do? I walk beside her and grab her hand. I love you regardless of how you feel about me. I'd love you quietly for however long you'd allow me to before I lose you. Loudly once. She looks up to me with eyes full of overwhelm, returns the grasp I have on her hand, and while I still feel terrible about putting her in this predicament. Her holding my hand gives me some hope, the hope that I needed to stop holding my breath. I need some time to process this, D. My mind is all over the place. I just need some time. Your tea is on the counter. I'm gonna head out. I kiss her on the forehead and quietly let her know that she can take all the time she needs. The quiet has been unbearable. This is the longest I've ever been without speaking to D, and it feels off. I respect him for giving me my space, but I'm so mad at him for the same reason. It's been so lonely, so quiet, so empty without him. I've never noticed how much color he adds to my life, how much my world stabilizes with him near, how I can never imagine my life without him. But what does that mean? I hate it here. I sigh loudly and begrudgingly grab my keys to go clean and warm up my car, since I know now Mr. Ramsey has been playing in my face the entire time. Wait until I see him. I open the door and the snow blows in so forcefully that I close my eyes before trekking to the car. I opened my eyes and there he was. I saw his silhouette. There's no mistaking him from Mr. Ramsey. I walk closer to him before saying his name, Deontay. He freezes in place, turns around and starts to speak before I can say anything else. I didn't want to go back on my word and try contacting you. I just did what I always do, nothing weird. I planned to be done before you came out. I've missed you, D. His shoulders drop, but he says nothing, I know. W, you were giving me time. Thank you. But being without you in my corner this past week put so much in perspective. He's still frozen in place. I walk close enough to him to smell his cologne and feel the warmth coming ng off of his body. I'm scared, D, but I'm even more scared of not figuring out what could be between the two of us. He cuts me off. Shayla, you have nothing to be afraid of. I will always be here. I step forward again. Now nothing is separating us but the frosty wind. I look into his eyes. The snowflakes on his eyelashes look like tiny crystals. I know. I tug his coat collar to get him to my level and kiss him. Time stops. The warmth inside thaws me right out. He pulls me in by the waist and asks me, "Are you sure?" I smile and tell him I have never been more sure. If anything else in my life, the snow is still falling, the wind is still blowing, but for the first time this season, I'm not cold. I smile because I know somewhere behind a frosted window, there is Mrs. Henderson, watching from afar, happy that she told his secret.